and welcome to In the Cantina with OHCATRINA, a Star Wars show where I delve into hyperspace hyperfocuses of the creative fans that make our community so special. This week's guests are familiar faces and some of my favorite people. Geeky Waffle founder Candace Kaw is in the house. Hello, my dear Candace.
Hello there.
And Star Wars photographer extraordinaire Britt Barnim is here. Hi, Britt.
Hello. Hi.
Today's a bit different because it's a round table rather than an interview. I wanted to gather some of my favorite folks together and talk about the latest entry into the Star Wars saga of The Acolyte, its impact, where things go from here, and what we thought about the series overall. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Candace, can I get your overall feelings on The Acolyte?
I have a new favorite Star Wars show. Rebels needs to save needs to go off just a little bit to the left, and so then it can be Acolyte and Rebels. My favorite.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Britt?
Overall, I feel like this is probably one of the most exciting things we've seen in Star Wars in a really long time. And I don't know, I've always been a prequel girly, so this is just right up my alley.
It's our vibe. It's our whole aesthetic.
A prequel to the prequels. It's like you're being what is that movie? I forgot what it's called. Inception. There we are. Yeah, the Inception of the prequels. Yeah, I really enjoyed this show. I thought, with Star Wars, it's very easy to be formulaic as a creator and a Star Wars storyteller. It's easy to fall into the rule set, but something that even George has tried to do from the start of the series and through the prequels was kind of break that mold. There are things that are poetry and are supposed to rhyme, but there are always new ways to write those rhymes. And I think that this show is such a great and incredible love letter to not just Star Wars canon and Star Wars history, but the expanded universe as well. And I was very satisfied by this first season, and I am clamoring for a second season. So this particular show, it takes place during the High Republic era. It is at a point where it's now at that point where it's only about 100 years before the Phantom Menace. We're right at the end of that High Republic era and going into the Republic era, less high. Yes, the medium Republic era. And I would like to know what your thoughts are on how was this a good first entry into live action for the High Republic era? Is it what you were hoping for? Were you surprised? We'll go with Britt first.
So I've only recently started my actual High Republic journey. I think between the month of May, I read about the first, I don't even know, 11 books.
Wow.
That I read all of phase 1, the young adult and the adult and the audio drama. And I'm on Path of Vengeance in phase 2. So I only have Path of Vengeance, Eye of Darkness, Defy the Storm, and the reason I started this whole thing, Temptation of the Force, left to read. So I'm very new to the High Republic, but I love it. It's a fantastic world, and it's very interesting to see the Jedi at this point because they're very different from the Jedi we have seen, especially in the prequels. As far as it being a good entry point for the High Republic in live action, Catrina, you'd mentioned this before we had started, but it's kind of the end, the tail end of the golden age of the Republic. So I don't know if that translated well to the general audience, because it really is the seed that started it all. As far as the pride and the humorous of the Jedi Order on full display that we see in the prequels, and the way we watch their downfall. So I'm not sure if it was good for the general public, but I mean, it's such a beautiful part of this universe, and like I was just really excited to see it in live action, like fully realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you feel about it, Candace?
I think it was actually like good for it to only be 100 years before the prequels, so then people don't feel like it's too distant. So they kind of have a starting point, because majority of people watching the show probably haven't read the High Republic. And I think it's good it's not set during the book times either, because it gives the writers so much more freedom to create characters and create like the hierarchy. Like there is Vernestra there, but she's really the only character from the High Republic there.
Mm.
And it's so far away from phase 2.
I think that if I had my way, we would have had a different High Republic show first, and this would have come after, and we would have seen sort of like the beginning and middle of end of this like saga of the Jedi. And I think there's there's a movie in development where it's about the first Jedi, but what I loved about the High Republic is that the Jedi were different, and they were at their height, and they were explorers, and they were, helping farmers develop Bacta, and they were discovering new planets, like setting up space Wi-Fi so that people could communicate with 4 planets. And, it was really more about like curiosity and discovery, and being, diplomatic representatives of the core worlds. It would have been cool to see like how great they were at one point versus how different they are now. Because this is definitely, the show is that crux point, the domino that falls and starts that whole downfall that we arrive at when we're in the Phantom Menace. With all of that said, I think the show is fantastic. Like I think it's definitely like a very fine descriptor when it comes to how we end up where we end up by the time the prequels start airing. So it's not the High Republic show I would have chosen, but it is a High Republic show that I'm very pleased with. How do you feel about Osha and May as our dual protagonists, and how they guide our story? We'll start with Candace.
I always loved Osha from the start. It took me a little while for May to really feel for her. And of course, it wasn't until that final flashback episode where we see exactly what happened, because you believe everything Osha believes until that point, that, oh, May's the one who was like murderous and started a fire. She was an arsonist. But then you just realize that she was like a scared little girl who had literally just witnessed her mother being brutally murdered in front of her, and then watching her entire family just gone, and she's alone on that planet.
Yeah.
And you just, it's a lot. It's a lot of feelings.
As much as I do feel that May and Osha are the dual protagonists of the show, I do feel that May was maybe underserved by the narrative. I felt like she really took a back seat to Osha, and I wish that, I think like this is a criticism of this series overall, and like my really only criticism with the series is that I just wish we were given more time to breathe with these characters, and that we were just given just a little bit more. Like even if it was just like each episode was an hour long, or we got like a couple more episodes, because like I think all of us almost immediately connected with Osha, and it's just not the same with May. We're just not feeling that same connection with her. And I feel like that, especially that ending, it would have hit, like it hit hard, but it would have hit so much harder if we would have gotten more time with her.
Us feeling that way to May was intentional, because that is part of the whole mystery. And we're supposed to be believing that she is, in, for lack of a better term, the evil twin, and those tropes, that she's the one who is just vicious and will do anything to keep her sister with her. And I do think it's my criticism of the show is it should have been 12 episodes at least. I miss my 22 episode season, because like Britt said, like we needed time to connect with her. We needed time with May after the revelation of, oh, she accidentally started the fire. She was goaded by Mother. What was the
Coral? Yeah,
Coral to like get angry, get mad, and lock everyone in. So yeah, we needed at least a couple episodes after that revelation to like, oh, what May did. We do get a few moments in the finale where May and Osha are escaping from the Jedi, and we're told like, oh, this is how she escaped, and she was all by herself, and she's like 8, you know. But we need more moments like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that we could have used a couple more episodes for sure. I mean, just to like prolong the experience as well, because it was such an incredible experience. But it just would have been nice to not be so go, and to just kind of have a few more of those quiet moments.
Build those characters who didn't really get a chance. Soul and Osha were like character arcs, beautiful, gorgeous. Want a little bit more of everyone else.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there are things that I know are being saved for season 2 that I really would have liked to see a little more of in season 1, like how May got from point A to point B, like who found her, how long was she alone on that planet, like who was the one who was like, was it the stranger who found her, or was it Plagueis, as we have seen? Yeah, who's the one who took her in and was like, all right, now you're going to be a Sith, like now you're going to be, yeah, you're going to train to be an acolyte or whatever. Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see how long she's been at that, because I think that, you know, a lot of the story we were told with May is one, it's partially in the flashback, and it's then partially in the actions that she takes. Like her flight capabilities, for example, are pretty stellar for someone who grew up like on a witch planet and like probably didn't know how to drive a car. So like, what kind of training did she go through? And that's not like a whole, it's not a Mary Sue argument. It's more like, well, I want to see her first flight. Like, these are things I'm curious about with May and excited about. Sorry, what's up, Candace?
I'm just imagining Kimmer in the stranger helmet, and just like a parent when their kid turns 15, and he's just like holding on to the dashboard. And
just go lighter on it. You don't have to press the pedal so hard.
Don't go to light speed yet. Don't go to light speed yet. You're not ready. We're practicing parking first. And he's just like that, you know, just like creepy mask and everything. And he's just like obviously worried. So when you said like who taught her how to fly, it just had that image in my mind, and I couldn't get it out.
Oh no, I love that. I love that. Like, I see their dynamics so differently, of course, than how I see Osha and the stranger. Because in my mind, I you know, my theory is that like the stranger did find her, and like he like helped raise her, and so like he had this like chaotic little like witch girl that he had to like try and work with, and there's like, I think I made a tweet a while ago where I mentioned that like, oh yeah, Chimere has those clothes for Osha because he bought them for May, because she like, you know, dressed like a gremlin, and he was like, my apprentice like really needs a style upgrade, and if I don't buy it for her, like she's not gonna know how to dress herself. She's gonna look like a little cave person. I see him very much as like a mentor slash like older annoyed sibling when it comes to how he worked with May versus obviously the radically different relationship he has with Osha. That was one of my big criticisms in this series, is that we had these incredible characters and we just didn't get to spend enough time with them. And it is a credit, I think, to the actors that they were able to portray these characters in such a way that when we saw them die, like especially in episode 5 with Yord and Jackie, like we were yelling, we were screaming because we loved them so much. And it takes so much to sell those characters in just 5 episodes with only a certain amount of screen time, and then have our hearts get ripped out by their deaths. But of the rest of the cast, like, who stood out to you the most? Who's your favorite, and why?
Like, I think the one that I kind of got connected, or that I was like, I found the most interesting and like the funniest was probably Yord, though. I mean, like, I don't know how you cannot be enchanted by someone who steams their rope.
Yeah, Yord is so interesting. and I heard a lot of people be like, oh, he doesn't have any characteristics. He's very boring and flat. I'm like, no, he is like the overachiever Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
He is like the
Yeah.
teacher's pet who grew up to be a Jedi Knight. He has the rule book like memorized. He has like, he obviously had like some kind of feelings for Osha. And he was like trying to fight against that, which is so intriguing. It's so intriguing when Jedi are like that. And I love like when he sees a stranger fight and he's like, he's not fighting by any rules of combat. And he adapts though. He gets killed, but he does adapt and take that helmet and just smash it. He learns quick. He is the one who's like, oh, you took Spanish or French in school, you know, like I took Latin, which is actually what I did in college.
No, I'm definitely on board with the Yord Horde. As endearing as Jackie was, and as great a character as she was, like she, where Yord tried to be the exemplary Jedi, Jackie just was, you know, just naturally
effortless.
Everything a Jedi should be. But I think it's that effort that makes Yord so interesting. He believes so deeply in everything that he's doing. Like his commitment is deep. I was certainly like the most enamored with Yord specifically because he was an A-type weirdo. And I just love A-type weirdos. So
I love when A-type weirdos have their beliefs challenged,
Mhm.
have you know, have their morals, you know, tested.
Yes.
And just seeing what happens with that. And just, you know, he obviously had feelings for Osha, but he still took her in. But then, you know, he's given new information like, oh, she had a twin. So he was willing to change and adapt, which was so nice to see, and just made all those little things make all the characters so real. So then when we did lose him, which was so quickly after Jackie, that it was like a 1-2 punch. And you're just like, well, they killed Jackie off. They can't kill Yord also off, because then we're just out of Osha friends. We predicted like who the stranger was. We knew Soul was gonna die. We kind of figured it, right? But how everything happened was so shocking, at least to me. And that's so much fun with Star Wars. I have not been shocked before this much. I loved it.
No,
and
go
then
on.
the next episode where they have that just quick cut, and it goes to Jackie's body on the ground, and then Yord's like right next to her.
Oh,
his face is all
God.
pale, and it's like the sun is out. It's so visceral. And it's amazing. Like Andor also made me feel things, and this has made me feel things too. And I love when media makes me feel.
It's so interesting because it leads directly to how I feel about Soul. I am heartbroken and angry and I feel betrayed. I also think that he is such an interesting and nuanced character. He is this perfect example of someone who intends to be good and believes they are good. And the fact that they mess up so badly and commit such a horrible sin that it like shakes them to their core, and they like convince themselves like, no, I'm the good guy. This can't be me. So I have to like neglect it. I can't admit that it happened. I can't talk about it. Like even now, I don't want to call him the villain. He is the villain in Osha's story, but I do not want to call him a series villain as much as he is someone who never got past the fact that like you need to own up to your sins, you know?
So I actually, Brett, you will love this. Anakin and Soul are so freaking similar.
Yes.
So like Anakin had an unhealthy attachment to Padme, obviously. So, Soul had an platonic unhealthy attachment to Osha. That everything he thought he was doing to save her, just like Anakin was trying to save Padme, was the wrong thing to do, but they justified it. And the fact that like Soul is trying to say I love you to Osha just like hammered that in so much more. And also the force choking thing too, you know, after trying to either saying I love you or after I love you, you know, it was very like parallel with that. And it just shows, I think, what the villain is in the whole series, and probably for the Jedi in general, is just their complete like inability to allow attachments. So the only attachments Jedi can have are unhealthy attachments, because they never learn about healthy ones. So then they get they like see a child in need and be like, okay, I need to rescue this child no matter what. I love this child. This is my daughter now. I'm like, I'm gonna adopt her. Or this is my wife. I will do anything to save her and my unborn child. And horrible things happen.
The Jedi Code essentially tells you to just have healthy relationships. It is ultimately telling you need to learn how to be selfless if you are going to have these people in your life. Like the code is like you need to, with Kanan, exactly.
Kanan
and
is the perfect Jedi. You were said it earlier, Katrina. He is the ideal Jedi. He is in love with Hera. He loves Ezra and Sabine as his children. Like Zeb is his brother. He has all those different loves, platonic, romantic love. And he is willing to put his feelings aside and sacrifice for the greater good or for his loved ones. It's just not a selfish love with him, which is
absolutely
so important.
It's heartbreaking, but he is following the epitome of the code in everything he does, which is hilarious because if you think about it, like Kanan was traumatized to the point where like he had become like a renegade cowboy Jedi and like he was
Drinking
out there being all
around.
Exactly, being a little rogue. And then like the moment he found love and healthy relationships and harmony and something to fight for, that's when he just snapped into Jedi mode. And that was it. Like he ultimately like became this perfect example of what a Jedi should be. And he still had like a lover, the mother of his son now eventually, children that he loved, a family. Yeah, like it's
sex happened.
Exactly. That sex happened. Yeah.
You could argue Yord was selfless, right?
Yeah.
But Katrina,
yeah. Because he continued to choose, even though he did clearly had feelings for Osha, and he had other things that like mattered to him. He continuously chose the right thing. And despite his own the way he felt about things. And so I think that it sucks because that's what ultimately led to his demise was I need to go back, and I agree with Osha. She's right. I need to go back and help save, my comrades.
Yeah, he broke the rules, but he was willing to put himself and also this person he had feelings for back in danger for the greater good, for more people. Yord's a hero.
Yord is a hero. He deserves a proper Jedi burial, and he better have gotten it, or I will riot.
The way Soul just walked away.
Oh my god, that was the moment where I started turning on Soul. Like that's where it started going like, oh no, I don't trust you no more, mister. How dare you leave them on the ground? Like, and like you had said, that second shot that came up and they were like still there the next day, right? Like at least close their eyes, like or something. Like it just, I thought that was so disrespectful, and it sucks too because okay, I'd seen a tweet about this earlier that was like so poetic and beautiful, and it was like Soul like did all of the wrong things to bring Osha home and have a Padawan, and eventually he got everything he wanted in Jackie. He got that Padawan, he got that relationship, and then he left her to rot. And
because of unhealthy attachment.
Because of unhealthy attachment.
Osha was more important.
Yeah.
Always Osha was more important.
I think the better parallel with Anakin would be to talk about his relationship with Shmi. And the parallel between when Shmi is dying and she tries to tell him she loves him before she passes away, and she's not able to get out the full phrase, and that's parallel to Osha when she's force choking Soul, and when he starts to say like it's because I love you.
Yeah, that is a really great point. And that's really that man, like I love that particular scene because it is much like with Osha. It's that crux moment where it's like there's no coming back from this. Like he can go through a whole nother movie and the rest of this movie, but he's there. He's on the side of the Sith now. Like they have him. So yeah, woof, man. So before we get to
fun,
all
these feelings.
I love it for that though. Like we go in, we have fun, and then we like have trauma that we have to discuss about on a podcast.
We make all the Yord memes, and Charlie Burnett's laughing about them, and we're all like, "Hey, we're having a great time. We're having a great time." The next week, exactly a week from when he reacted to my little Yord sale meme, he was gone.
I saved that particular screenshot where he's like, "And I'm sorry I died," and I'm like, I want this in the slideshow at my funeral, like that people have a reason to laugh. Sorry I died. Let's talk about the Jedi, the Sith, and how things have become even more nuanced, I think, thanks to the show. Like a lot of the things that we know about the Jedi and the Sith, I think have been expanded. And I see Britt with her notepad, so I'm going to start with you, Britt.
Look, I'm going to be super honest here. I'm like probably the #1 hater of the Jedi. As an institution.
Yes, I agree, Britt.
I love certain Jedi, but as an institution, I'm always like, yes, like
it's like any religion.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'll never get over it's just okay. My favorite, one of my favorite things about this show entirely is like, for me, the 2 biggest mic drop moments in this entire show were delivered by a Black man and a Black woman in the last 2 episodes of the show, with like Senator Ray in court being like, can I do the full quote? Can I say the full quote? I wrote it all down. Okay, like when he says, like, I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power, posing it as a religion, a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable, your emotions. You project an image of goodness and restraint, but it's only a matter of time before one of you snaps. And when, not if, that happens, who will be strong enough to stop him? Quote, him. Love you, Anakin.
Where's
Skywalker.
the lie? Like, I don't usually agree with senators, but this guy's not saying any lies.
I mean, he said nothing wrong, and like when you juxtapose that to what Mother Anastasia says in the episode before, the someday those noble intentions you all have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy. I was just like, this show was made for me.
Yes, 100%. I mean, that's like you had said, Candace, that's the story with so many religions, is that all of these rules are put in place not to be lorded over other people, but to be guidelines about how to be a good person. While I think that Senator Raincourt was completely right in his word, I also think that his efforts they're ultimately what set another domino to fall that lead the Jedi all the way to being in charge of a clone army, you know? But
if the Jedi didn't do the sus stuff in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. No, look, completely right.
Right, Britt? Blame the Jedi.
Look, it just wasn't very for light and life of them, okay?
Exactly. Where's the cross stitch in everyone's room for light and life? Light, life, and love.
They didn't say it once in this show either. I was
they're like darkness. Darkness only.
I think that's a great like testament to how far they've already fallen.
But like what Sinister was talking about, that's very much like Anakin, but also with Soul, because we see in the 7th episode, like Indara tries to stop him. But like, who will stop him? They all try to stop him, but they couldn't. Soul just, did a murder.
Soul did a murder, and then he did a bunch of other bad things. Like that's really where his fault is that if it stopped with the murder and he started to reconcile and he started to repent,
admit it,
but he thought of himself, and that is the issue, you know. So it's so sad, honestly, to see the potential wasted.
And the whole reason he did that was because Indara's like, oh, well, look at that little girl. Like, she needs someone. If we admit to this, she'll never be trained. And also, like, he obviously sees her, like, already as his Padawan. She was kicked out of the order, or she left it. Like, we don't know exactly what happened. But all of that was for naught.
Yeah.
Which, again, even more tragedy. And then look what happened to, oh my gosh, who's the Padawan in the flashbacks? I always forget his name.
Torben?
Torben.
Torben?
Look what went through that. That kid was through it.
Aged like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the desert.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not going to speak or like move or anything for like a decade. And he was given poison and he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, so many lives destroyed. For what?
Yeah. Exactly. No, I completely agree. And this is the thing, is that this is not to say that the way of the Sith is right, or that, you know, this isn't a moral thing about like who is right between the Jedi and the Sith, because at the end of the day, any choice that is selfish, and like George Lucas has said this himself, like the choice that is selfish is the choice of the dark side. So that is what Soul was choosing when he decided to kill Anastasia, when he lied to Osha, when he lied to the council. These were dark side moves. And I'm very excited to talk about Oshimir, because there are things I want to say about that in regards to the stranger and his reactions to Osha. So like, let's just jump into it, because like, I'm going to go straight to that point. We're in the Oshimir section of this episode. Oh, go on.
Oh, is there one point I can make about Osha and just like an Anakin parallel really quick?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so before we get into the Oshimir of it all,
mm-hmm.
There was a point I wanted to make. Like, I kind of love the fact that she was a Mechanic, because it was another parallel to Anakin. And like this idea of her being like a fixer of broken things, and like Anakin in Attack of the Clones, he says like life seems so much simpler when you're fixing things. And I don't know, I just feel like both Osha and Anakin feel as though something is broken within them, and like they aren't the ideal Jedi, and they know it. Like Anakin in episode 3 is like, I'm not the Jedi I should be, I want more. And in episode 2 he was also like, I'm a Jedi, I'm better than this, when the incident with the Tusken Raiders happened. And Osha, in comparison, is like, the first time she ignites a lightsaber that we see is when she's like, because I failed, when Chimera was attacking or questioning her about why she never became a Jedi. And her whole encounter with May in the finale was her discussing like, I could never let go of my anger and my hatred of you and of what had happened, and the fact that you had started this fire and you had killed the entire, it was your fault that the entire coven died, especially like our mother died, and she could never let go of that anger, and that's why she left the Jedi Order. And I don't know, I just thought that was very interesting, and I like the fact that they both try to fix broken things, but they never could really fix themselves.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of Anakin, and intentionally so, in what we see with Osha. And I like the parallels between them quite a bit. And that was really what, like, I mean, that was what our signs were from the beginning of like, oh, this is gonna change. These two are gonna flip, because there's no way Osha is staying on the light side, or at least the side of the Jedi, by the end of all of this, given all of these lies, all of these cover-ups. Like, she was set up for failure from the beginning, and it was all because of one man's selfishness. Okay, Oshimir section, because I do want to talk about the struggle between the light and the dark, and what I'm already seeing with Chimera. And this is I'm going to go right into it, and we can have a little more structure afterwards. But I don't think Chimera is fully Sith. I think that it's, you can have a hot bad guy and stuff, but like the radical change that is in him that you see on display when it comes to Osha, and the fear that you see in his eyes and body language when Vernestra is around, that completely changes his character and his even his body language. And I think that though Chimera is on the side of the dark because that is what gives him power and that's what makes him feel strong, I still think that there is a potential that we see Chimera stray from the side of the Sith in the future, specifically because of those vulnerable moments. And of course, I think it's Osha that brings it out of him the most. But it's also like those memories with Vernestra, that memory of when he was a Padawan. So Like, I think it's so interesting to see him as a character because he like has all these different layers to him. And I'm really excited to see, hopefully with the season 2, what else he has to hide.
Someone said that season 1 is about like OHA's daddy issues, and then season 2 is going to be about Kymir's mommy issues. Which I'm like, yes, I would love that.
I was just supposed to be like, the power of Manny. Also, Canadian Sith Lords are the hottest. But I don't know. I was most interested in his character from the beginning because I was like, I mean, the fact that he was fashioned after like hobo Robert Pattinson as Kymir, I was like, yes, 1000%. I love this. And then he's like, I've been alive for it's been a long time since I was a Padawan and stuff. And then I'm immediately transported back to being like 15 years old and Bella Swan in a rainy forest being like, how old are you? 17? How long have you been 17? A while. It's every like book trope, every romance trope I love and adore, and I know like everybody else is on the same page, but I just, oh my goodness, Leslie Headland, gosh, bless your soul. The fact that like a thumb caress is the galaxy far, far away's version of Darcy's hand flex, like, thank you. Yes, thank you.
I say that second base in Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
just like it is in Regency times.
Gorgeous. It's beautiful.
I love it. I love the way that their relationship kind of develops. I love that like so many of us ETL people have come together on this particular relationship.
Like
we are all at the same dinner table now, and we are feasting.
Yeah, I'm here.
It's just so wonderful to see a Black female character on a show who is not only not hypersexualized, but in like this very like she has this amazing romance, or like this, at least this like baby step into a romance. But also I forgot to bring this up earlier, but like I just love the fact that this is a Black female character that is not demonized for being angry and for being upset, and she's not punished for that. And I just think that that's really important. Yes.
Isn't it exciting?
And like,
a female character with agency? Who would have thought?
Oh my God, I haven't seen this since like what, 1977? Like I love that. Okay, so this is why Oshimir really works for me. I love that every choice she has made is hers, you know, because Kymir really went above and beyond to try and convince her, like, be a baddie now, be a Sith right now. Like, these are all the cool reasons why you should be a Sith. Look at me, my shirt is off. Like, all of these
everything's off.
He did everything to try and convince her, but it wasn't until she found out about Soul's betrayal that she turned. Osha didn't fall for that crap, you know? She didn't fall for any of those things. And I think that that's what woke him up to why she was so interesting and why she was so powerful, because he pulled out all the stops and she wasn't for it. She was like, okay, get out of my face. Like, I'm still going to go save my sister and my master. And the bickering on the way to the ship where she was like, you can do whatever you want, but yeah, she muted him. Like, I love it. There is no part of this particular relationship where Osha does not have freedom of choice and agency, and she constantly like shoots Kymir down until it's time until she's already on the dark side, and by then you could tell that this man has fallen for her because of the fact that she rejected him so many times, basically.
He goes to reach for her, which I thought was so, like, after she kills Soul.
Yeah,
was like, goes, what, a Sith like comforting someone after they did a murder?
I don't think that he's going to stay a Sith. Yeah, I don't think that he's going to.
He says he's not a Sith. He says you would call me a Sith, but he's not saying I am a Sith.
Yeah, and I don't think that he's going to stay. I don't think that he's going to become a Jedi or anything, but I don't think that he's going to be imbued in the dark side for as long as maybe he thinks he's going to be. It calls back a lot to me to the story of Revan and Bastila in Knights of the Old Republic, where Revan is deep in the dark side and it's love that brings him back. And when Bastila falls, Revan takes it upon himself to try and bring her back because she is the reason that he came back to the light. And I see that happening for Osha and Kymir. Like, I don't think there's any way both of them survive this, if either of them survive this at all. but I think that Chimera is going to, my theory, is going to have an act of sacrifice that helps Osha reunite with May, because he realizes that that's important to her. He realizes that the person he loves is incomplete without the other side of who she is, you know? And I think that that's going to be a really cool arc for him. Nothing has been like, oh, I don't buy that. Oh, that's kind of abusive and weird. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. Everything was a conscious choice in the span of this relationship. And I know that there's an interview out there that says that they did film a kiss, but I'm glad that there wasn't a kiss, because it was not time yet. As hot as that is, it wasn't time yet. But that handhold with the lightsaber was perfect.
And the look she gives afterwards, like,
yes,
that confident look.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank
you for making these choices.
Yeah, I love that they tried different things and they're like figuring out what works with the narrative and the characters, and they aren't just like determined like this is in the script, we're gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna make it work.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love their relationship.
Still like the footage though.
The collaboration is just what made this show so strong. Is there? It can be messy when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, but like when you get the right amount, and that is honestly like what made Star Wars like that such an iconic movie, and why the trilogy is so amazing is because George did the same thing Leslie did. You get talented people and you surround yourself with them. And you listen to them.
I love in that comparison too, like Manny is very much like the Carrie Fisher of this season and of the series, because I mean you think about it, and like Carrie was like what, 19 years old, telling George that like, hey, my character should do this, my character should take this action, she should be more headstrong here, she should be the one who does this, and George was like, all right, that sounds awesome, let's do it. Like
Harrison and Mark are just like, nobody's going to talk about this. Nobody talks to me, George.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love that too. Like that collaborative viewpoint is one of the I think that's what makes a peak Star Wars series, when you have people saying like, I don't think my character would do that. What if we tried this? George didn't know how to do everything, right? But he knew how to find people who did, and who did it exceptionally well. And that's why we have the technology that we do today for mocap and for so many of the different like artistic endeavors that that Star Wars has made strides in, as well as the storytelling endeavors that made Star Wars such an incredible saga. And so seeing that reflected, just like everything about the series just feels like a love letter to like what George was doing. And I just love it so much.
Yeah, it's really important when there's like no egos
Yeah.
when you're making something, when you're working, when you're doing anything really with other people. And yeah, that was something George was he knew his limitations, and he's like, yeah, let me get the best of the best. And that is why we got such an amazing trilogy, and why we're all here right now talking about.
Yeah. So any other Oshimir thoughts before we wrap up on that?
I'm excited we're getting romance in Star Wars. I'll say it again. I've said this, I've been on a bunch of different shows the past few weeks, but like when you're in a Star Wars, there are really like high emotions and like feelings going around. One of those feelings is going to lead to some kissing. That's all I'm saying. Like, well, that's just, natural.
I think it's a very silly criticism when people are like, oh, keep the romance out of Star Wars. And I'm like, do you remember the thing that like powered the original trilogy? Like, do you remember what started the expanded universe? It was Han and Leia having sex, having babies, like getting married. It was Han and Leia from the beginning. Like that's what drove people. Yeah.
Empire, everyone says, is like the best one.
It is,
and I think it is because of the romance. It's my favorite. So I might be just biased, but like it is because that romance is so good. The chemistry between the two, because they were doing stuff on the side, but like good for both of them. Good for both of them. Yeah, it's just so iconic.
It is such an important key part of Star Wars. Like it's love in its essence is what makes or breaks so much of these Star Wars storylines, whether it's platonic or romantic. And I think that we have been so deprived of like romance in live action Star Wars, real romance. animation has given us more of. You know, we got to see Kanan and Hera develop. We got to see Zeb and Callus develop. Like that was a romance. You know, it's part of what made that series so good, is the love in that series. And so I'm excited that we have this romance. I hope we get more romance in all of these shows, because we are just so deeply lacking, and it's truly one of the foundational aspects of this saga is romance and love and family. Say like I don't want romance in Star Wars is to say I don't want the original trilogy. It's to say I don't want the prequel trilogy, because romance was what drove that whole story.
Everything. Yeah. We get romance in like Jedi Fallen Order, like you said, Rebels. Like, why can't we get it in live action?
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
You don't want to see two hot people kiss?
I am an Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala stan first. I'm a Star Wars fan second. I've always been this way. There's a reason I have them tattooed permanently on my body. I don't like Star Wars without romance.
Yeah.
And the reason that the Acolyte has easily become like my favorite thing that Disney has done since they took over Lucasfilm, is because like they're actually giving us like something that at least I can hold on to, and I can grasp, and I can get excited by.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about romance in general, is it's something like, okay, we don't know how to feel the Force, or like what it feels to accidentally kill your Padawan's mother when she turned into a gob of smoke. But we do, a lot of us do know what it is to fall in love, or lose love, or just like these general feelings. So having something that's relatable just makes it such a human story. And that's like why Soul is so complex and tragic, and you still do feel for him because you understand him.
Isn't that like just so awesome that you have this character who like I want to punch you in the face, but I also just want you to go to therapy. Like it's so interesting that these characters have such deep and complex layers to them, and I'm really excited to get to explore what those layers are in Chimere, what that is with May, and what that is with Osha, and hopefully other characters now as well, like for Nestra. I would like to see Yord's Padawan come back and develop into more of a full character, since she's like the Padawan. I know she's Tassilo.
She's probably happy she wasn't invited. That's all I'm saying.
Oh no,
she's probably like, maybe it's good Yord forgot about me. He was too busy steaming his clothes.
Well, that's the thing, is that like I would argue that like Yord is he is a good Jedi, because he would not take his Padawan on that mission that he knew was going to be dangerous. And Soul was like, well, Jackie will feel bad if I leave her behind. And it's like, no, leave. She's a child.
There's a Jedi killer on the loose, y'all.
Don't take your child.
And the thing is, like, Yord, at least Yord didn't know that it was only the Brendok people. Soul might have thought, oh, she's just after us, you know? But, you know, you don't know that, Soul. You don't know that.
Exactly. So I'm hoping we see more Tassilo. And on that note, where do you want to see the show go next? What are some questions that you want answered in season 2, which is totally going to happen because I said so.
Announce it.
Yeah.
Now, please.
I want to see some training montages. I want to see some people getting thrown down on mats and straddled. I want some heavy.
It was like, is Britt going there? Yeah, she's going there.
I want to see some heavy breathing. I want to see some people in some personal space. I would also love at least a Stellan Gios mention, but like if we got like a flashback of a young Vernestra with a younger Stellan Gios, that'd be amazing. I also, of course, want to see Chimera or the Stranger and Vernestra's relationship developed and figure out exactly how old this man is.
I'm excited that we have the possibility of exploring more Sith lore. It's something that is very underdeveloped in the live action space at least, and honestly, really in canon now. So
Yeah.
just to get like we saw Plagueis just peeking out, like I want to know his story. He's super creepy, but you know, yeah, he's creepy, but you know, I want to know more, and I want to know exactly like what the Sith believe they're doing, and seeing like a story from the Sith point of view as they're the heroes of this story.
I want to see Yoda get punched in the face. That would be great.
The thing, I was talking about this with Agents of Fandom the other day, and I was like, Yoda, throughout the High Republic, is essentially, he's a kindergarten teacher, okay? And he likes being a kindergarten teacher. He likes being with the younglings. He is not supposed to be making decisions on a war council. He is supposed to be making arts and crafts with 5-year-olds. That's what makes him happy. Yeah.
Attack of the Clones, he's like teaching the little younglings, while Obi-Wan's the only one doing any work, it seems, in the whole Jedi Temple. Yeah, honestly, if they sent another Jedi with Anakin, keep a little eye out, all this wouldn't happen.
I don't think another Jedi would have stopped Anakin. I think he would have figured it out. That he made a decision.
Elzar Mann walked so Anakin Skywalker could run straight into a lava pit. Okay.
The thing is, like, Elzar Mann is. I feel like Elzar Mann's like slut material. Anakin's just like one woman kind of guy.
Well, Elzar and Avar, they give me like big Regency vibes, especially after Temptation of the Force. Like no spoilers or anything, but like they give me big Regency vibes. And the thing that Regency couples often have, because this was how it was, I guess, back then, is that the men are experienced and the women are not so much.
The men are rakes.
Yes. Elzar is a rake. And Avar, I'm sure she's smarter than most Regency girls. I would really like to explore more about Plagueis, the dynamic of the master, apprentice, acolyte trifecta, because here we go. I am finally going to mention Asajj Ventress. The first example we really have of that is Palpatine, Dooku, and Ventress. She is the bottom rung. She is allowed to be there specifically because Palpatine said, yes, I give you permission to have an acolyte, but she is not your apprentice.
And then he gets threatened by her.
And then he gets threatened by her because she is amazing, and she is altering his plans a little too much, and that is why he orders Dooku to genocide her people. So,
also, I mean, Palpatine knows, like, okay, this is what apprentices do.
They overcome.
Yeah, they get a younger one, so then they can be the master. So he's like, I know this story because I lived it. I did it.
Another reason why I think Chimera is doomed, because this is Plagueis.
Put that out into the universe.
No, Catrina was like, oh yeah, they're not going to end well, and I'm like, they could just, like, retire on this off-world planet doing a little metal shop, and Catrina said that they would have to have like some amount of chill, and I was like, never mind.
No, there's not.
These both do not have any chill.
No, Osha and Chimera have zero chill. But you know what? I love tragedy. If I didn't love tragedy, I wouldn't be a Star Wars fan. Exactly. So I don't want it, but I'm prepared for it, especially when it comes to Plagueis, who taught Palpatine everything he knows, including, oh boy, when your Padawan gets too strong, you should really try and get rid of them, because if you don't, you will be the one who dies. And, Plagueis eventually is the one who dies because Palpatine does get too strong. But yeah, I'm excited to see that dynamic explored. I'm excited to see what involvement Plagueis has with the two of them. And I'm, I hate to be like that dude bro about this, and I don't think it's very dude bro to think this, but I'm excited to see what other expanded universe things Leslie brings into this lore, because she has clearly thought about this deeply. And the thing I love about Leslie is, like, from the start, she was super open and honest about how deeply her passion for the expanded universe and that lore runs. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna throw Thrawn in because he's cool. It's I'm gonna put Plagueis in. He is they're intentionally as a specific player in a specific place right now. And if we get a season 2, his piece on the board is going to move with intention. And I am excited to see what other ideas she has. Like, as much as Osra is like Anakin, she is also very, very much like Revan. And I am excited to see that story get, more of a love letter in that sense. So that's what I'm hoping is like we get to see more of those things from not only the High Republic, but the Old Republic getting pulled into canon relevance. Okay, well, we talked a little bit about Plagueis the Voyeur.
I was about to say, quote, I was just about to be like, these violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss, consume.
Oof.
And that is
what I want God.
From the Acolyte. Okay. I would love a trailer for or to have like a sneak peek of the Acolyte season 2 with like 20th anniversary screenings of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that would be so good. Yes. I love that.
Because watching that with the Phantom Menace was amazing. Although I wish it wasn't right at the end of the movie, but that was like a nitpick on my part.
One of the things that I really loved about the Acolyte preview being at the end of the Phantom Menace is that you already had like all the adrenaline running through you from Duel of the Fates, and then you get this incredible fight scene with Trinity from the Matrix with like this fight choreography that matches the level, the caliber of what you just saw in the Phantom Menace. Like that's what immediately sold me on the show was like, oh my God, if this is like the first action sequence in this show, what's gonna happen next?
Like the best opening Star Wars has had.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, like I think the Mando openings really like has that Western feel to it, but this one just throws you right in.
I'm hopeful that we get a season 2 announcement early, but if we don't get it till next year, my hope is that they're like, oh yeah, and we already filmed and edited the whole series, so we're getting it tomorrow, kids.
Yes, I'm so terrified of what happened to Willow, but like Star Wars is completely different from Willow. I know that, but logic is not computing right now. So I just would like to know now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are at the top of the show now, and I have truly enjoyed talking to you again, both of you. Thanks for coming back. Let's go ahead and tell the fine people where we can find you. Candace, you have something to promote, don't you?
Yes, we have Acolytes for Equality, which is going to run till August 11th. And we're raising money for Equality Now, which is one of Amanda's charities that she supports. And it's a really great cause. They support women and girls with like legal fights, which I don't know about y'all, but just some rhetoric I've been hearing lately. I feel like we're gonna need it even more than before. So it's just a good cause, and it's a great way of all the Star Wars people, we're coming together.
Yeah. Awesome. And where else can we find you?
Find me at thegeekywaffle.com, geeky_waffle on Twitter, the Geeky Waffle everywhere else. And I'm on Twitter as Candace is a geek because I am a geek.
Yes, look forward to some cool content from Candace and I over the next couple of weeks. We are going on a little trip soon, so we're going to have some special stuff for all of you to see, hopefully. And where can we find you on the internet, Britt?
You can find me at Britt Barnim on most things. You can find my photography website, which is brittbarnim.com. I also have a film blog called thatfilmgirlbrit.squarespace.com. And I have an exciting new podcast, a subset of the Geeky Waffle called Yearn With Me that should be out soon that I'm really excited about. And I'm excited to yearn with everybody. So
I love that. I'm so excited. That's going to be really fun. Well, y'all can find me on the internet anywhere if you look for OHCATRINA. That's OHCATRINA. I am the host of this podcast in the Cantina. I have a new YouTube channel, which you are watching the show on right now. So please do subscribe to it. You can also find me on the Geeky Waffle. I host a little show called What's Glup, where we talk about everybody's favorite little scrumbly guys in Star Wars. And I also co-host Pedro Pascal, the podcast about Pedro Pascal, with my dear friend Rachel, which should be coming back this week. So very excited to announce that. I am working on a number of other things that I can't remember right now. So just look for my handle at OHCATRINA, because I'm doing all sorts of stuff all over the internet. So yeah, so this has been an incredible show. Thank you both for joining me. And thank you, audience, for tuning into In the Cantina with OHCATRINA. Come back next Monday. Till then, fly casual, my friends, and always tip your bartender. Ta-ta!